Some files were forgotten, others were buried, but a few remained locked away for a reason. Tonight, Midnight Archive opens, file number 001, the Jamison family disappearance. On October 8th, 2009, a family of 3 vanished without a trace. Their truck was found abandoned deep within the mountains of Oklahoma. Inside, their wallets, their phones, their jackets, their GPS, and over $30,000 in cash. Nothing appeared to be stolen. Nothing suggested a struggle. Yet, the family was gone. No witnesses, no explanation, no goodbye. 4 years later, their remains were finally discovered, less than 3 miles from where their truck had been abandoned. But even today, no one can explain what truly happened to the Jamison family. To understand what happened, we first have to understand who the Jamisons were. At first glance, they looked like an ordinary American family. David Jamison, his wife Sherilynn, and their 6-year-old son, Colt, lived in Eufaula, Oklahoma. Like many families, they dreamed of a quieter life, far away from crowded cities, far away from stress. They wanted a fresh start, a place where their son could grow up surrounded by nature. That dream would ultimately lead them to one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in modern American history. On the morning of October 8th, the family left home together. David, Sherilynn, and 6-year-old Colt. They packed their white pickup truck and drove toward the mountains to inspect the new piece of the land one last time. No one knew that it would be the last time they would ever be seen alive. The Jamisons were expected to meet with the owner of the land they were planning to buy. After that, they were supposed to return home, but they never did. Hours passed, then an entire day. No one had heard from them. Their phones went silent. No one knew where they were or what had happened. It was as if the Jamison family had simply disappeared without a trace. Days later, search teams began looking for the family. Then, deep within the Sans Bois Mountains, they found the Jamisons' white pickup truck. It was abandoned, locked, and everything inside made the mystery. Inside the truck, they found David's wallet, Sherilynn's purse, their mobile phones, their GPS device, their jackets. Even the family's dog was still alive, and perhaps the strangest discovery of them all, more than $30,000 in cash, untouched. If everything they needed was still inside the truck, why would they leave? And more importantly, where? The discovery raised more questions than answers. Investigators searched the surrounding woods, every trail, every hillside, every possible route the family could have taken, but the search revealed nothing. No footprints, no discarded belongings, no signs that the Jamisons had ever left the area on foot. It was as if they had simply disappeared into thin air. Days turned into weeks, weeks, into months, investigators returned again and again. Search dogs combed through the mountains, helicopters scanned the forest from above, volunteers walked mile after mile, but there was nothing. No clothing, no footprints, no campsite, no evidence that could explain what had happened to the Jamison family. The remains of David, Sherilynn, and Colt had finally been found. The discovery brought an end to years of searching, but it did not bring answers. The remains were found less than 3 miles from where their truck had been abandoned, an area that had already been searched more than once. How could 3 bodies remain undiscovered for nearly 4 years? That question still has no clear answer. Investigators were unable to determine the exact cause of death. Years of exposure to the elements had destroyed much of the evidence. The case remained open, and the questions only continued to grow. Investigators carefully examined everything they had found, but after nearly 4 years, the evidence had been severely damaged. Nature had erased many of the answers. The exact cause of death could not be determined. And with that, the investigation became even more difficult. There were no clear suspects, no definitive evidence, no explanation that could fully explain what had happened to the Jamison family. Over the years, countless theories have attempted to explain what happened. Some were supported by evidence. Others were based on speculation. To this day, no one knows which, if any, is the truth. The first theory focused on David Jamison himself. Friends and relatives said that in the months before the disappearance, his behavior had begun to change. According to several reports, he claimed to see strange figures near the family's home. He spoke about spirits and believed their house was haunted. Not long before they disappeared, David reportedly asked a local pastor to come to the house. He believed something inside was threatening his family. The pastor visited the property, prayed over the home, but whatever David believed was there never disappeared. However, investigators never found any evidence that confirmed these claims. No physical evidence, no witnesses, nothing to suggest the house was connected to the family's disappearance. One detail has puzzled investigators for years. When the Jamisons' truck was finally discovered, inside was something that made very little sense. More than $30,000 in cash had been left behind. Their wallets were untouched. Their phones were still inside the truck. Even their GPS had never been taken. If this had been a robbery, why would anyone leave all of it behind? But without evidence, there was no way to prove what had happened. Once again, investigators were left with questions instead of answers. As the years passed, more and more theories began to emerge. Some blamed David's state of mind. Others believed someone else must have been involved. There were theories of accidents, of foul play, even the supernatural. But one by one, most of them began to fall apart. Not because they sounded impossible, but because there was never enough evidence to prove them. Every theory answered one question, only to create three more. And after all these years, the truth remains just out of reach. There is one explanation that requires no hidden attacker, no financial motive, and nothing supernatural. The Jamisons may have left the truck for a reason that seemed harmless at the time. Perhaps they wanted to inspect the land on foot. Perhaps they followed a trail or noticed something deeper in the forest. But the Sans Bois Mountains are remote, dense, and unforgiving. A wrong turn could quickly separate a person from the road. As daylight faded, the temperature would begin to fall. Without their jackets, their phones, or proper supplies, even a short walk could become dangerous. They may have become lost, injured, or trapped somewhere search teams could not see. On the surface, it sounds possible. Their remains were eventually found in the same wilderness where their truck had been abandoned, and medical examiners found no confirmed injury. That clearly explained their deaths. But the theory still leaves several disturbing questions. Why would all three, including their young daughter, leave the vehicle without their phones, their jackets, or even the family dog? Why did no one return to the truck? And how did three people remain hidden less than 3 miles away for almost 4 years? An accident may explain where they were found, but it does not fully explain why they left. More than 15 years later, the Jamison family case remains officially unsolved. No arrests have ever been made, no suspect has ever been charged, and no evidence has ever revealed exactly what happened inside the Sans Bois Mountains. The case remains open only in the minds of those still searching for answers. Some cases are solved, others remain unanswered for decades. The Jamison family may be one of them. Perhaps the truth is still out there, hidden somewhere within the Sans Bois Mountains, waiting to be discovered. Until then, the file remains open. This was Midnight Archive, file number 001. If you have your own theory, leave it below. Every possibility deserves to be examined.